He says, Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. Today we are going to speak about the lost 10 tribes. The lost 10 tribes. Why are they called the lost 10 tribes? Because they got lost. They were exiled and they lost consciousness of their ancestry. They forgot who they are. They became lost to history and lost to historical awareness. Nevertheless, the Bible tells us where they are. They were not lost to God Almighty. They were not lost to divine providence. They still had a role to play. They existed. They continued to function and to do what they had to do, at least to some degree. And we hear about this. Originally there were 12 tribes of Israel, actually 13 tribes of Israel, because Joseph was divided into 2 separate sections. So we have 13 tribes, Joseph being Ephraim and Manasseh. But the Bible tries to maintain a quorum of 12, either by counting the 2 tribes of Joseph as 1, or counting them as 2 separate tribes and omitting to count Levi, or in one case counting Ephraim and Manasseh as separate tribes and Levi, but omitting Simeon. However, for its own reasons, the Bible maintains a quorum of 12, but actually there were 13. And there were 13. And where were these 13? These 13 had divided, had separated into 2 separate polities, in 2 different kingdoms. The northern section, or the section where most of the tribes was to be found, where there were 9 tribes in the north and the east, plus 1 extra tribe in the far south, Simeon. They were the 10 tribes. They were known in the Bible as Israel, or Samaria, or other names. They are separate from the 3 tribes that remained in the south, the tribe of Judah. So we have 10 tribes, and these 10 tribes were conquered by the Assyrians, taken into exile, and they lost consciousness of who they were. They had actually even began to forget it before the exile. They had gone after the pagans, worshipped the pagans, identified with the pagans, to some degree at least. And in the course of the exile, additional pressures were placed upon them, historical circumstances that speeded this process along, so that they became like the Gentiles, forgot who they were. You can see that the tribes got lost by Isaiah 27:13, Hosea 1:9, 7:8 and other verses. The 10 tribes were exiled by the Assyrians, 2 Kings 17:8, and they never returned, or at least they never returned in large numbers. Small portions of them here and there did reattach themselves to Judah, but these were representative minorities, important in their own right, but they did not give expression to their historical destiny, according to the understanding of rabbinical commentators such as Nachmanides in the Book of Redemption. 10 tribes who were exiled, who got lost, are known as the lost 10 tribes. The 3 tribes who remained also were exiled. They were known as Judah. They were exiled. They were taken into exile by the Babylonians. After 70 years, a portion of them returned to the land of Judea and re-established their kingdom that later developed, whereas others remained in Babylonian exile in their places where they had been taken to. But now, wherever they were, they remembered who they were. They retained the consciousness of their ancestry, of who they were and where they had come from, and what they had to do according to the law of Moses. And they are the Jews of today, or they gave rise to the Jews of today. The Jews of today are their descendants. What happened to the 10 tribes around 720, a little bit earlier or later, according to different accounts? The lost 10 tribes were exiled. And the exile took place in the stages, several stages, before they were all taken away. The exile coincided with the rise of the what's called in history the Neo-Assyrian Empire. That is previously, according to conventional history, there had been a great empire in Assyria, in what is now Mesopotamia, Iraq, that region, and it had been a great empire. It had gone down, and it rose again in its renewed form. It is known conventionally as the Neo-Assyrian Empire. And expanded greatly, became very powerful, and after a period of 100 years, a little bit more, it disappeared. It fell down and disappeared. Now, this circumstance overlapped the exile of the 10 tribes of Israel. We find we find records in Assyrian inscription. We find records that the exiles were taken to the different portions of the Assyrian Empire. We find mention of exiles from Samaria, which was the name given to the northern tribes. We find people with Hebrew names in Assyrian service, even leading military commanders seem to have been of Hebrew origin. Also whole troops, specialized troops of charioteers and archers and others also seem to have been taken en masse from Assyria, from what had existed in Israel, and transplanted and reused in the Assyrian forces. And this incidentally was a common occurrence in ancient times, and even in modern times it is not an unknown phenomenon. At all events, the Israelites were there. They were that. We find them also sometimes used as slave labour, sometimes as artisans, specialised workers, as colonists, and all common types of capacities. We find records of Israelites, and more or less they remained together in cohesive groups. Later, shortly afterwards, there were upheavals in the Assyrian Empire. In different portions, the subject peoples managed to assert a degree of independence. A portion of the Israelite exiles became identified with or attached themselves to the Scythians, and together for a brief period of time they took over the Assyrian Empire, the whole of the empire. They had control of it for a number of years, but they lost it, and then they were all, or most of them, were driven out and went to the north. From the north they went to the west, and historically they may be identified with the Cimmerians, the Scythians and the Goths, or with portions of them. They attached themselves to these peoples and became identified with them, and when these peoples moved to the west, they moved with them. That was one section. There was another section of Israelites who also went westward, but along a different path. They went by way of the sea. Actually, Philistine, according to the Bible and the biblical terminology, Philistine of Minoan or Mycenaean Greek civilization, and also Phoenicians from the city of Tyre and Sidon, also were employed by the Assyrians. They were partners with the Assyrians, proxies of the Assyrians, one could say. And the Assyrians attempted to expand and to establish their empire, and for a while they succeeded by exploiting the west, areas in the west, by in Spain, silver, iron, lead, other minerals, and also agricultural enterprises, and in Britain, tin and copper, in Ireland probably gold. They also established agricultural colonies in Britain. Also they had settlements in Scandinavia, and in this way too Israelite exiles were employed in these enterprises, were used as manpower for these gold, confirmed by archaeological findings and also by Irish legends. And the taking of Israelites overseas in ships to the west is hinted at in the Bible. It is hinted at in the Bible in the book of Amos, chapter 1, verses 6 to 10. Those Israelites who were taken overseas by sea later linked up with the other Israelites who came overland with the Scythians, the Cimmerians, and the so-called Gothic forces, and they moved and merged into the same regions, and there they once again re-amalgamated, recoalesced together and rejoined together. That is how we find amongst peoples in the West a significant input of Israelites, and that is where we find most of the lost 10 tribes to have historically been, and that is where in history they gave expression to themselves as predicted by the Bible. The Bible had told us that they would do this and what they would do in the areas of resettlement. It was said that the lost 10 tribes, where they were, they said that the lost 10 tribes, where they were to become very numerous, to be a numerous group of people. See Genesis 15:5, 22:17, 24:60, 32:12, Numbers 23:10, Deuteronomy 1:11, Isaiah 10:22, 24:16, 26:15, Hosea 1:10. They were also to be the most powerful nation on earth. See Genesis 27:9, Numbers 24:7, Micah 5:7-9. They were to be the richest, to possess or control most of the mineral and agricultural resources of the earth. See Genesis 27:28, 49:25, Deuteronomy 33:13-16, Hosea 2:8. They were to live in the best places of the earth. That's in Lahar. To be in islands. Isaiah 41:8-9, Isaiah 42:4, 49:1-6, Jeremiah 31:9-10 in peninsulas, Jeremiah 31:8, and at the continental extremities, that is the ends of the earth, that is where the lost 10 tribes were to dwell at the continental extremities, as most peoples whom we identify as belonging to the lost 10 tribes are to be found. They are to be found at the continental extremities of the continental masses, in Scandinavia, in the British Isles, in France, in the Netherlands, in North America, in Australia and New Zealand, and in South Africa. They're all at the continental extremities of the land masses, as the Bible predicted they would be. They were also to be to control the major strategic points concerning their potential adversaries, the gates of their enemies, the gates of those who hate them. 22. See Genesis 22:16-17, 24:60. They were to be like a lion and a unicorn. That was what to be their symbols. See Numbers 24:8-9, and also the bald-headed eagle. See Micah 1-6. They were to be 1:16. Micah 1:16. They were to be in several oceans, that is many waters. Numbers 24:7. And they were to be largely unaware of their Israelite identity and to practice a non-Jewish religion. See Hosea 2:8, 2:13, 2:16, 11:12. Judah at first, that is the Jews, would not know who they were. Isaiah 49:29. And there are numerous, exactly hundreds of other proofs along the same lines that all point to Western peoples belonging to the lost 10 tribes. We don't say, or don't know what proportion of the peoples in those areas are descend from Israel, but we know that is where the lost 10 tribes are on the whole amongst those peoples, and that historically they did give expression to the Israelite identity as Scripture had said they would. And we also find that these peoples, even now, they have some type of Israelite characteristics to them. It is quite feasible that they and the Jews have a common destiny. Both sides seem to feel it instinctively. They have mutual values, mutual enemies. Those who hate one usually hate the other. The foes of one are the adversaries of the other. Even their enemies recognize that there's something common between them. There's some mutuality, a bond, a bond of blood, a bond of ancestry, of values, of the way of looking at the world, of appreciating civilization and civilized values, and of the right ways of behavior, and the right aims that humanity should have, and how people should relate to each other. All of these, the Jews and the people from lost 10 tribes have these values in common. And they are, in a sense, almost the only peoples in the world who do have this, of which this may be said. Well, so the State of Israel was set up through the help of Britain, through the help of the British and the Balfour Declaration and everything which came after the British Mandate, even though there was friction and disagreements. And so, after the state was established, the State of Israel was set up, continued to survive and function and to flourish, through the help of the USA, through the help of France and then Britain and the USA altogether, giving assistance. And they did give assistance. No one can deny it. And those were the peoples who did, and the only ones who did. Or almost the only ones who did. Though a few others who did were also peoples we find lost 10 tribes to be significant. In Holland, Scandinavia, they were times pro-Israeli, and it did help the Jewish state to some degree for limited periods of time. Even now, nowadays, they seem to be very reserved towards us. Historically, they were not always so. Concerning the present, we find that most Jews today are in nations where we find a good portion of the lost 10 tribes to be, such as France, the USA, the UK. They are either in such places or they are in the land of Israel, where more than half the Jews are at present. Yeah, and this is significant. It was also predicted that the Judah would return to the land before the 10 tribes. See in Micah 4:8 in the Hebrew version, Hamim Shelah Harishonah, that is, this first rule of the land would be from Judah in the end times. We also find that Ephraim, who is the leading 10 tribes nation, he will reunite with Judah. Previous friction between the two will be forgotten. This is in Isaiah 11. Together, Ephraim and Judah will defeat their mutual enemies. Together they will transfer by aeroplane. They will fly out the Palestinians to the west, possibly to some place in North Africa, or to Latin America. It doesn't matter, some region in the west. It says Yama in the west. This is what they will do. I see Isaiah 11:12 verses 12 to 14. And there are explanations of the Hebrew original concerning these verses. And the Israelites will be extremely numerous. The 10 tribes will be acknowledged as belonging to Israel, though previously they had not been. See Hosea 1 verse 10. The number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. It shall come to pass in the place where it was said unto them, You are not my people. There it shall be said unto them, You are the sons of the living God. The 10 tribes will return, and they will take possession of the land of Israel, take possession of Lebanon, of Syria and Jordan. See Zechariah 10:10, Micah 7:14, and also of Samaria. See Jeremiah 31:5. They shall reunite with Judah. The 10 tribes shall unite with Judah, and they will become one nation. Even though so, each separate tribe will have its own individual, its own separate portion of territory. See Ezekiel 47:21, 48:9, and the temple will be rebuilt. See Ezekiel 45:4. And this is a challenge to us. We have given our proofs, and we have proofs. We have even more of them. And we have a substantiation for what we are talking about, and we can show it to you and can read about it. And it is important, and you are challenged to check this out for yourself, to verify it, and to think about it, and to consider it, because it is important, and it could be important for you and for your children after you, and for your neighbours and for the countries that you live in. Some people might protest that all of what we are saying is dependent upon our interpretation of Scripture, our understanding of the biblical verses. Maybe so, but most of what we are saying, well, actually all of what we are saying, is according to the literal Hebrew original, and it is confirmed. Our interpretation is confirmed by major biblical, respected biblical commentators of the classical authorities of the Bible, of the rabbis in the Talmud, and the rabbis in the Midrash, of Rashi, of Radak, of Nachmanides, of Ibn Ezra, of the Malbim. We quote all of these sources, and we show how all of these sources have interpretations, understand the verses as we understand them. So our interpretations cannot be dismissed, because this is what there is. This is what is being said. Before we have an example, Abijah chapter 1. There's only one chapter in Abijah. Is 1 page, 2 pages, a very short book. Abijah, the book of Abijah in the Bible, verse 20. It says, as conventionally translated, it says, the exiles of this host of the people of Israel shall possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad shall possess the cities of the Negev. That is what it says according to a conventional translation. Now, if you look at this according to how the rabbis interpreted it, and they're speaking about the end times, they interpret it to say this first exile of the 10 tribes, the first exile of the Israelites was of the 10 tribes. They shall possess the regions stretching from Germany, that is the Canaanites, Ibn Ezra, and from Holland, and even into France, and Rashi, Ibn Ezra, Radak, Abarbanel, Dartzofrim, and England. Zarephath also including England, according to the explanation of the Abarbanel. And the captivity of the Jews of Jerusalem in Spain, Sepharad, shall possess the cities of the south. So at all events, they are saying, and Rashi explicitly says so, the lost 10 tribes in the end times will be in the region known as France, which is Zarephath in biblical terminology. And the sources are there. They are as we said they are, and you should, if you are honest, intellectually honest, you should deal with it and accept what we are saying and learn about it and internalize it and help us and identify with it, or reject it. But if you reject it for the sake of intellectual honesty, you should have reasons to do so. You should check out what we are saying, and if we are in error, well and good, and if not, also take draw the necessary conclusions, do the best you can, and together we might be able to achieve something that should be positive in this direction. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.